Good evening, everyone. We are back with another Disney review. We're up to number 43 today, and a little bit of a lull, maybe, from Treasure Planet last week, but it's still an all right movie. Number 43, Brother Bear. One of the last, well, towards the tail end now of the traditionally animated Disney films. And it's a bit of a sad one, sort of like the behind the scenes on this one. So we've got one more next week, which is Home on the Range, but it says that this was the third and final Disney animated feature produced primarily by the Feature Animation Studio at MGM Studios in Florida. After this, the studio was shut down in March of 2004, not long after the film came out, because the company wanted to shift more towards computer animation. So we're really kind of in the death throes of traditional animation. And I know you've got studios like Studio Ghibli that keep it going, but really it felt like a huge blow to me when Disney stops doing traditional animation. You know, we've got Princess and the Frog coming up later on, and I know on the American list they did Winnie the Pooh as well. But it really is kind of like the last of a dying breed with this film.
Yeah, and sadly it doesn't go out with a bang.
It really doesn't, does it? So, yeah, we were talking a little bit before we went live. I don't know how long this review is going to be. There's not like a huge amount with the behind the scenes of this one, and I don't know how long we'll be talking about
it. I predict 4 minutes.
4 minutes. We'll try and go a little bit longer than 4 minutes if we can. Brian's chipped in. He says, I think Kenai's voice actor is different in the second movie, but they are still both good movies. I actually haven't seen Brother Bear 2. I watched a lot of the straight to video. I think this was one of the probably at the tail end of the sequel trend, because this came out in 2006, Brother Bear 2. Yeah, and I guess Joaquin Phoenix was way too expensive to bring on for the sequel. So Patrick Dempsey voices Kenai in the second one.
I don't mind the voice acting in this, but it's nothing special.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's the biggest fault of it. Like, there are a lot of elements to this film that I do like. Some of the imagery, like the background behind us, is absolutely gorgeous. Some of the music is great. I love the score. I love the cultural stuff in it. To me, the first act of the film is where this film really shines, and it could have been built up to something really special. As soon as Kenai's transformed into a bear and starts talking to the comedy moose, I'm kind of out of this movie. I think like all of the setup with the brothers and the relationship between them and the transformation sequence is absolutely amazing and gorgeous. And then after that, it kind of dips into your sort of run-of-the-mill buddy road movie, very traditional, very done to death kind of thing.
Do you ever find a lot of the movie is it does things and it's good, but there's no like depth in the sense of it's just like, yeah, guy turns into a bear and then there's kind of it. You know, like there's little things that happen, but there's no actual like you know, like you sometimes you watch stuff, oh, that's really cool, this happens and this happens with this. It's kind of like, yeah, this happens and that's kind of it. It's kind of like, you know, listening to Van Halen's last album and going, yeah, they did this and that's cool, but that's kind of it. You know, it's like a lot of it is very like, as I say, it's not bad. I don't think it's a bad movie. Like, you know, I don't think it's a bad movie. I think it's all right. It's just like I watched it the first time about 6-7 years ago or whatever. Yeah, a while ago, but not like when I was a kid.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask you, did you watch this as a kid or not?
Yeah, not as a kid. The first time I watched it, like I said, was about 6 or 7 years ago. I'd never seen it before. And it was all right. I didn't dislike it. I was like, oh, no, this is kind of cool. And then this time, I was literally just, because I'd seen it before, and like I said, everything was so surface level of, this is kind of it. I watched it, and I was like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you get that kind of vibe from it.
Yeah, and I don't think we're alone in that. I think, you know, this film did open to quite mixed review. It actually made quite a lot of money. I'm surprised about it. So the budget was about 46 million on this, and apparently the box office was 250 mil. So, you know, add about half on, that's like 150 mil profit. That's pretty decent as animated features go, especially around this time. But it was released to mixed reviews. People were kind of sort of indifferent about this one, and I think, and maybe this kind of led to the shift that Disney wanted to move more towards computer animation. Maybe it was cheaper. The way that the market was going, you had Shrek, which came out in 2000, I think, which was massive. Probably the Pixar films as well, the sort of sister company to Disney at the time, were all really successful. And a lot of these animated companies were making that move towards it. And Disney probably thought they wanted to get in on that. This was nominated, though, for Best Animated Feature at the 76th Academy Awards, but it did lose to Pixar's Finding Nemo. And to be honest, comparing this to Finding Nemo, that's fair enough.
No, it's not. Finding Nemo's shit.
The hot takes.
What I was going to say. I was like, to be honest, though,
you had a hot take last week. What was it? Last Crusade. We were talking about Indiana Jones, and you fucking hate The Last Crusade.
Yeah, but not as much as I hate Finding Nemo. That movie is crap. Like, it's the fact they lost to it. Like, I get it because, like, I just do. Like I say, everything's surface level, but with Finding Nemo, really? That's I don't know.
I will fight you on that one. I fucking love Finding Nemo. Finding Dory, on the other hand, that was a shit. But Finding Nemo,
never watched it. Didn't deserve my money. Did not deserve it after the train wreck that was Finding Nemo. I didn't deserve anything.
Well, speaking of like going to the cinema and stuff, I actually thought quite a bit about this, and I think Brother Bear may have been the last Disney film that I went to the cinema to see for a long time until Zootopia came out. Actually, was the next one that I went to see. I was kind of going through them all in my head, and I was like, yeah, I never went to see Princess and the Frog at the cinema. Tangled, I didn't. Frozen, I didn't. Big Hero 6, I missed out on completely. Wreck-It Ralph, I missed out on completely. And then I was like, oh yeah, the next one I went to see was Zootopia. But looking at the next few, Home on the Range, I got that on video. I think that was actually the last Disney video that I got, because around 2004, everything, they stopped making videos and everything went to DVD. So I stopped my Disney collection at that point. But I did have Home on the Range on video. And then the next string of Disney films, as we mentioned, Chicken Little, The Wild, Meet the Robinsons, and Bolt, I straight up haven't seen. So I think that Brother Bear was the last Disney film, certainly around that time, like 90s into the early 2000s, where I stopped watching them. So I'd have been 10 years old at this point, but I remember going to the cinema with my dad. My dad would always take me to the cinema, and we'd watch like all the new stuff. But I don't remember like McDonald's toys with this or anything. I think this was like, we must have gone on like a Saturday or a Sunday afternoon. We usually went on Saturdays, I think. I remember seeing it. I remember going to the cinema to watch it. But even back then, I don't think it had any kind of like massive lasting impact on me. It was very much a film that I watched and then went about my day. That's what I mean by surface level. It's very, you watch it, cool, and you're done. Mm-hmm.
There's nothing wow about it. There's some good fight scenes and stuff, like at the beginning and everything, like, when he fights against the bear and everything. Like, there's some cool shots and some cool things that happen, and there's a little bit of excitement. It's a very, I think you even said this, when he turns into a bear, that's when it kind of drops.
Yeah, so honestly, the first act I really enjoy. I love, the opening. We'll talk about the music as well, because there was a lot of songs in this I completely forgot. I was under the impression that Phil Collins sang everything, and I was like, oh yeah, Tina Turner does have the opening number of this film. And everything feels very big. Watching it again, you've got the Tina Turner number at the start, as I just mentioned, and it almost feels like it's chasing after that kind of big Lion King type opening with a circle of life kind of thing. And you're seeing this wonderful landscape and culture, and I love all of that stuff, and it's all working for me. I like the dynamic between the brothers, and I think the inherent core and drive of the story is a nice one, sort of finding your place and atoning for, your wrongdoings and seeing life through different eyes and everything. It's all there. There's like good quality stuff there. The bit where the brother dies as well, Sitka, right up to the transformation sequence coupled with the music has some of my favorite imagery probably in any of the Disney films, with the whole like Aurora Borealis and the lights and everything. Wonderful color scheme and everything. The transformation sequence wonderfully animated. And it's right when Joaquin Phoenix comes into it, really. That's not a fault on him, but it's when Kenai wakes up with Tanana, and then he's talking to all of the wacky animals in the forest, and the fucking moose. I'm going to go on a rant about the moose characters later, because I hate them so much. That's where it really takes a dip for me, and I feel like it loses a lot of the intensity and the subtleties of the opening, and
Well,
I wish the film would have maintained that tone that it set up from the first part of the film. After that, it kind of veers off into kind of by the numbers, wacky woodland animals and comic relief, and a buddy road movie, which we've seen loads. And yeah,
yeah,
I
well,
think it loses a lot of its niche at that
it
point.
kind of becomes a different movie in a way. It kind of becomes that, like you say, the wacky characters, the whole like, right, we need to be a Disney movie.
Yeah.
Whereas the first half is that a little bit different. I think what we're probably seeing here is that kind of, well, we need this because it's a Disney movie, right? Well, we need this. This is what we need for a Disney movie. Whereas if we had that first, like the first half is very Jungle Book to me. Like there's a lot of Jungle Book elements. There's a lot of that, like even the Lion King stuff. There's some fire. There's some battle scenes. There's even like just before when he goes up the mountain when there's the lightning and all that kind of stuff. There's, like you said, the colors of the lights. There's all that sort of really cool stuff. But which the second half is like that kid-friendly stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I guess like Jungle Book and stuff did better was it all molded well and did a whole bit of this, bit of that, bit of this, bit of that. Whereas this becomes very first act, second act. And like you say, I think the second act takes away a lot of that. What's the word? Maybe not action, but that kind of like takes away some of the stakes. Some of the whole like, oh, what's going to happen, or like someone's fighting against something, and it just becomes a kiddie movie, which is a strength and a weakness because I guess some people will go, do you know what? That's amazing, and I feel like there's going to be very divided. There's going to be a lot of people that dislike the first act, and love the second, and then a lot of people that are like this. But I think, yeah, it falls short on the second act in that way. But yeah, like I said, it just becomes very surface level. Like, I don't think it does anything that's magnificent.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with that. And maybe it is an element of this, like the hodgepodge of ideas, maybe as it developed, because the story did go through quite a lot of changes. Initially, from the success of Lion King around 94, the then CEO, Michael Eisner, wanted to really push more animal-centric Disney films. Stands to reason. And Disney is still doing this now. When something's massively successful, it's like, right, let's put all of our chips on this because this is working. Let's just milk it dry until it runs out of money. So a call was put in for more animal-centric films, and he was the one who actually suggested the North American setting and the sort of like the post-Ice Age stuff, which again, I absolutely love. I think it's a great setting, and it's nice to see that kind of cultural stuff to it. And similar to Lion King, you know how Lion King was very much based on the story of Hamlet, isn't it? Like very Shakespearean. The original idea for this film was very King Lear. So it's centered around like an old blind bear who traveled the forest with his 3 daughters. What else happened in the story after that? That's it. That's just like the original concept of the film. But this was constantly reworked. And it's funny because I think one of the later CEOs, the president, sorry, of Walt Disney Feature Animation, Thomas Schumacher, when they revised the script, it was going to be a father and son story, which I actually think could have worked really well as well. And the son was going to get turned into a bear, and by the end of the movie, he was going to stay a bear. The president of Walt Disney Feature Animation apparently was quoted as saying that the revised story, he said, "This is the idea of the century." I'd call Brother Bear many things, but I wouldn't call it the idea of the century.
I think it could have been. I feel like, not that I'm saying it could have been that, but I think it could have been executed better. And if it had been executed better, it could have been something that was like, okay, because it has got a good idea. It's just, yeah, it's very surface. What's that woman's name? The old lady.
Tanana.
Yeah. Doesn't she remind you of the boob lady? The woman with the big boobs, and I think she throws them over her back or something.
What?
Yeah, there's. I'm trying to remember where she's from.
I thought you meant a Disney character, another Disney character for a second there. What the fuck are you talking about?
No, but she reminds me of
the boob lady. I'm not googling that. Maybe I should. I don't know.
No, what's she
throw
in?
Him over her shoulder.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ.
What's she in? Simpsons movie.
It's been a long time since I watched it.
When did that movie come out?
Oh god, it's 2006, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, so not too far apart. But there's a woman they meet and she has really big boobs, and she just reminds me of her. I
love if anyone's just tuning in right now. He's just talking about, oh yeah, there's this woman with like really big boobs, and
yeah, they sag like really low, but like, she just reminds you of that. I don't know.
I was
But
going to say she reminds me of Rafiki because she's like the sage and the mystic, and
yeah,
the life lessons and all that.
there is that. Speaking of something that's surface level, I just want to mention is with the animation, how like there's obviously by this point we had a lot of 3D, a lot of camera panning in and outs of like. I don't think there's enough of that in this.
Yeah, I mean, there's two sequences like we've seen in the previous ones, the integration of a lot more CGI into the animation. Treasure Planet was like testament to that. Maybe they looked at Treasure Planet and was like, oh, that's like really expensive. We're gonna sort
Yeah,
of cut some corners,
I
maybe.
probably, but there's elements, there's like little bits where they pan in the trees like very briefly, and you see it and you think they could have gone a bit further. They could have done bits, and I agree. They probably did think that's quite expensive, but I didn't actually look. How much more expensive was it?
What on the budget
How
between
much
the
more
two?
expensive? Yeah,
I think Treasure Planet was 140 mil, wasn't it? This is 46 mil, so it's quite considerably less of a budget. But the
yeah.
CGI, there's sort of like two major scenes, I guess, that include it, and they're quite noticeable. There's the caribou stampede right towards the beginning, and then there's the salmon run, and that's where you get a lot of camera panning with all like the bears frolicking around in the salmon run. So they're sort of like the two major CGI elements. There's probably more. I'm guessing, like the spirits on
Yeah,
the
there's
mountain
little
was all of that
bits
as
as
well.
well. I
Yeah.
just think the thing that not annoys me, but like when it goes in between the trees, you see it like little bits, and you just think, you know what, they could have really utilized that when he became a bear. Like this is the forest and all this, but they just kind of didn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm just having a look here. One of the animators said that they learnt to simplify objects by getting the spatial dimensions to work first and working in the detail later. I actually do really like a lot of the animation on this, like the bear fight at the beginning with with the brothers with Sitka and everything. Like the animation on that bear feels so lifelike. Just the way it moves, the way it interacts, like how when it roars, like the lips kind of pull back, just and the way the fur moves and the muscles and everything, it looks so lifelike. And it was reminding me of the Fox and the Hound with the bear fight in that. How even in that film it looked very lifelike, and there's weight to the bear and there's impact behind it. Love all of that stuff, and then it gets more cartoony, doesn't it? With all of the random Russian bear that's at the salmon run. Remember that bit?
Yeah, again, it's a trope, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's what's he called from that movie, Princess and the Frog? The guy that I thought was like, hello, how you doing? That guy.
Raymond.
Yeah,
Raymond
that's
the
it.
Firefly. Yeah.
Yeah, that for some reason I thought was an Indian guy when I was a kid. I don't know why. But him, it's that kind of trope, that kind of funny, and yeah. I feel like this movie has more tropes than it needs to sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Even to there's a scene where I'm really bad with the names on this because they're all like foreign names and like but like where like what's the main bear's name again?
Kenai.
Right, yeah, cool. Where he's hanging upside down,
Yeah.
and the little bear's like hitting him and stuff like that's how they that's it's funny, like it's cool. I get it and I like it, but it's just another. Does that make sense? I feel like that's my main thing I keep saying about this. There's cool stuff and it's just very surface level.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just another thing that's just there.
Yeah, I think I would have liked to have seen. I think the father-son dynamic, actually, reading about that, I think that could have worked really well. I like that they still keep it familial and it's the three brothers, and I think that still works as well. It's almost like a fable kind of story in many ways, how it plays out. Like for example, in the original draft, like Denai, the middle brother, he was going to be the father figure, and then as the story developed, Kenai was going to be taken under the wing of an older bear called Grizz, who was going to be voiced by Michael Clark Duncan. And they really liked Michael Clarke Duncan in the film, so they reworked that character of Grizz into Tug, who's the leader at the salmon run, like the big bear. So they reworked that character that way. So you can see all of these ideas trickling down, and I feel like the final product that we get, there's good stuff there. There is good, like, substantive stuff, especially with like the family dynamic. And as I mentioned, like the first act is brilliant, and there are some moments of real tension, like the bit where Denai's stalking them and they're underneath the glacier and he's walking above them, or the bit where there's the log and he tries to tip the bridge and he makes the jump across. Seeing Denai kind of devolve into that animalistic hunter, just hell-bent on revenge, the same fate that befell Kenai originally as well. All of that stuff's good, but then that stuff is that more mature stuff, I guess, is offset with the wacky stuff. And I get that it's a Disney movie, but when you're hearing those two fucking comedy moves just show up, and there's no reason for them to be there, it will just cut to a scene of them doing stupid shit. And I hate it so much. I was watching the film because I already knew that I didn't like like the moose. And I was watching it, I was like, could you make an edit of this movie? I guess you could say they're like the gargoyles in Hunchback of Notre Dame. Now, I much prefer the gargoyles in that film than compared to these, but you could literally just edit them out of the movie and nothing changes. They're there for comic relief only, and I even then, I don't think the comic relief works.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is again another example of just it does things. But the thing is, I think it feels like now what we're seeing with Disney is them do things because they know what works.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas take it all the way back to the beginning, there was a lot of trial and error, like a lot of, well, I want to do this, well, I want to do this. Whereas now we're seeing a lot of, because by this point, Disney's going for how many years? Like, a long time. And they've got what they works. They've got what that makes a Disney movie. Like, even when we talk about Lilo and Stitch, you had the certain tropes. Whereas like Atlantis didn't. It was a very different kind of thing. Whereas like now they're like, right, what do we need to include? And sometimes that falls short because it's like, yeah, that's cool, we get it, but you know.
Yeah, no, I totally get that, and yeah, it's this film. I knew it would be. This film's actually really difficult to talk about because I feel like we've already like touched on most of the. It's a very simple story. Now, don't get me wrong. I don't feel like a story needs to be overly complicated in order to work. And I think all the elements are in this film for it to work. I really like the setting, the cultural stuff, as I mentioned. There is element of character there, but I feel like they could have gone deeper into it. But as it stands, it's very trite, it's very surface level, it's very safe, I think is the best word for this.
Yeah.
It started with a very complex idea. As I said, it's quite fable-ish, but then there's not real substance throughout the middle section of it, and then it's all tied up in a nice, neat little, it's very predictable ending. I suppose you kind of know where it's going to go right from the off, and it does just that. There's nothing wrong with that. It just doesn't leave you with like many twists or turns.
One thing I'd like to say though, the colours, I do think again the colours are really good in the movie.
Yeah.
I think the colouring and like the animation itself is okay. Like as I say, I do think there are elements where there could have been like you had an opportunity, you could have done this, but like you say, maybe to cut costs, kind of get that. But I do think the colouring and everything, the movement of characters, I do think that's really, really good. I think the flow and the way it looks, how do I describe it? The way it looks the smooth, I guess, the smoothness of it, I think that's really, really good. And I do think the way things are drawn, like for instance, the way the trees are drawn and the way they're coloured, that's not overly cartoony sometimes. That sometimes it's quite a bit of tie-dye splash kind of vibe to it, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And I do think that is a winning point for this.
Yeah, no, I mean, I love loads of sequences in this film. I think it looks great. I've talked about the spirits on the map, that transformation. So I'll talk about the music. I think the music is called Transformation, actually, with the choir. Wonderful scene, and it was reminding me of something like Fantasia, where the music just kind of takes over, and you're just sort of appreciating all of the imagery that's going on. The initial opening with the Tina Turner song, where we're seeing all the like glaciers and rivers and woodland and mountain, like just it really places you in that world, and it's wonderful. And that sort of post Ice Age Alaskan backdrop, really good stuff. The bit where the brother fights the bear, and he cracks the side of the mountain. Like, that's all really exciting stuff. So there is good stuff in it. Even like little subtleties in the animation where Kenai and Coda hide underneath that glacier and they're talking to each other, and you can see the breath of the like the condensation, the cold air and the warm air and in the coal. Like, attention to detail like that, it's really good. There is some good stuff in this.
You know, when Kenai is walking, you know, when he's through the when he's walking through the, like, you know, when he's going into the ice cave even.
Yeah.
You know, when he's walking in there, you've got that 3D again, that kind of, you can see him like the panning in, and again, even like the ice is drawn so well, it looks so cool. And then when it goes back to that 2D kind of thing, you can see the ice behind them. It looks again just like a drawing behind them, kind of similar to, you know, when we spoke about Snow White, how there were set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's got that little bit of vibe. So again, the animation is, I think, probably the strongest point of this.
I think as well, I mean, I do really like the animation on this. I think maybe coming off the heels of Treasure Planet, which to me, the animation in that is just astounding. And it would be, I mean, it had 100 mil more on the budget. I feel like this is fine. I do think we are going to see a downgrade next week when we get to Home on the Range. I could be surprised. In my mind, I feel like the designs in that are very, very simplistic, hardly any detail at all. But I could be taken, because I haven't seen that since it came out pretty much. So that will be like rewatching it again for the first time. We had another comment from Brian who says, I'm not sure if this would work as a world in a Kingdom Hearts game or not, but it would be cool. I think there are elements where it could work, but yeah, it wouldn't be towards the top of my list, I don't think. I think it'd be quite limiting.
Yeah, again, it would be very surface level. You know, it would be cool, it'd be cool ideas, but, you know, it would be surface level. It would be, the thing about it as well, when you've got a world in a game and stuff, you've got to kind of have a payoff at the end. And I think, you know, you'd be a bear, you know, there'd be bears, that'd be like the whole thing. It's kind of like Princess Frog, right? If that was to be a world, at the end of it, it would be like, well, the characters have got to kind of have a resolution as well. They've got to have, like, they're no longer frogs, they're no longer this, and they've got to have that. But then it wouldn't be the same world anymore, would it? You know, because it's like, if you go and then revisit the world, the characters are no longer bears, and it's like, oh, what's going on? But then, saying that, we did have bits in Kingdom Hearts 3 with, like, Rapunzel has a haircut at the end, she's no longer a party member. So we do have things that change, so it could. I just think it'd be a bit too different.
Yeah, I think, I mean, the backdrop as well, it'd be very much sort of like Red Dead Redemption kind of looking thing, wouldn't it? I would imagine.
Yeah, well, we could include Red Dead Redemption in Kingdom Hearts 4. That'd be good.
What do you think the Keyblade would look like for a Brother Bear world?
I was thinking in Red Dead Redemption. I was thinking of Red Dead Redemption Keyblade. Brother Bear, I want to go with like a mystical kind of. Do you know what I like? What the, you know, like a dandelion kind of keychain. You know, something that's a little bit mystical, foresty. Like, I think the keychain should be like a dandelion. You know, where there's like, they go through it and the dandelions are flying through the air and stuff. I think something like that would be cool.
Well, I was thinking, you know, he has the bear totem made out of stone. Like, that could be like a pommel of it or something, maybe. But you wouldn't really see it all that much.
Do you remember the 100 Acre Wood one? I think in Kingdom Hearts 2, where it's basically a log.
Yeah.
Is it in 2? Something similarish to that, I think. Yeah, I like that kind of vibe. Just a little bit more, like, has that mystical. I think on, like, the log, for instance, if it had like a blue kind of thing going through it, that's got that, you know, or maybe the pattern that that chick's got on her head, on right through the log. I think something like that. I think a cool Keyblade could kind of work for it. I just think as a world, I think, again, very surface level, very unforgettable, unmemorable even. Yeah, not unforgettable at all. Very forgettable.
I think summoning as a summon, the spirits would be a real cool one to do. Like those lights in the sky. I don't know how it would work, but you just kind of blast them with like spirits of mammoths and bears and
what, and have like the moose as party members.
Yeah, why not?
What is the plural of moose? Moosey. Moose.
I was thinking that meese.
That's Mooses. What I thought, but I don't think that's a thing.
I guess it's like sheep and sheeps, isn't it? Like
sheep's ain't a thing. Sheep's ain't a word.
Exactly. So you just say sheep singular, sheep plural.
But you say two fish. But you also say fishes. I don't get it.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe someone can let us know. We do have another comment though. What is it? HLB Coma says, two white guys talking. Where is the diversity? Well, Dale, you could always go in blackface if you want to. Then I guess we'd be more
I
diverse, right?
could. I might do that next time. I'm gonna leave. I'm gonna remember that comment, and if I don't do it, I'm gonna feel very racist.
Let's talk characters very briefly then. Do you have a favorite character in this film?
Do you know what? Yeah, but it's because. So, what's the little bear called again? The thing, the little. What's
You
he
just turn
called?
into Popeye then.
Yeah, I'm bad with names. What's he called? The little bear cub.
Coda.
Yeah, Coda. I was going to say Kida, and I was like, that's wrong. But yeah, and you know why? Because it reminds me of Fun and Fancy Free.
Yeah, I was thinking that. Yeah, what was
That's
the
why.
fucking bear called in that?
Do you know what? Again, I can't remember what he's called.
Bongo?
Yeah,
Bungle?
yeah,
Oh no,
yeah,
that's
Bongo?
Rainbow. That's Rainbow, isn't it? Was Bungle the bear?
Is it Bongo? I feel like it's Bongo. I'm gonna have to have a look because I'm confused now. I'm curious. But yeah, him. I feel like it's because of that though. Like, whenever I watch this movie, like when I watched it this time, all I thought in my head was Fun and Fancy Free. Like there was bits that my brain kind of not like edited to be Fun and Fancy Free. Just there were bits I saw that and I was there in my head going, no, that's Fun and Fancy Free. So I feel like that's why as well. So I don't know if that's the right reasons for him being my favorite character, but I just see a lot of Bongo the bear in him, which is cool, and I like it. But is the fact that he's my favorite character because he reminds me of another movie, is that saying something about the movie?
Yeah, maybe. I was gonna say, yeah.
It's
But the fact that you couldn't remember the names, and you only watched it like a little ago, so it is quite forgettable, I guess.
yeah, but the thing is, I'll forgive the names because I've always been bad with, like, as you've probably seen through all these, every time we talk about them, I'm always like, wait, what's that character called? I'm not the best with names, so I'm not going to hold it against the movie. And also, they've all got, I say, odd names. They've all got like that Native American-y kind of, so I won't hold that against the movie, in terms of the names and stuff. But I do kind of think it said something on my favorite character is because it reminds me of a character from another movie. It's but no, he is fun. It is a comic relief thing, but also another way to think about it is because he's that comic relief character, like he's that Disney trope, he's that kids movie trope. The fact that that's my favorite as well, is that also saying like it is just playing it safe, the movie? Because the fact of my favorite character is the kind of safest option as well. How much does that say the movie is playing it safe?
Yeah, you talking about Coda, right?
Yeah.
So in my mind, before I rewatched this again last week, Coda I always remembered being really fucking annoying and irritating, and I hated. But honestly, watching it again last week, I actually did not mind him as much. He does have some annoying moments, and I think Kenai's quite he brings that up, doesn't he? He's kind of like a motor mouth at the beginning, but I think once you get the revelation that Kenai was responsible for his mom's death and everything, I actually did feel a lot of empathy for the character during that scene, which I've never felt before. I ain't gonna say Coda's like one of my favorite Disney characters ever, but I was like, maybe I misjudged the character a little bit. I didn't find him as great as I did before.
Do you know what? Again, I think the one great thing is, the way the bears' mouths move throughout when they talk and stuff. I think that's done really, really well.
Yeah.
And I think that really shines on Coda because he's a bear cub and he's that, kind of, he's got that cutesy looking kind of thing going on with him. And I think that really, really shines. So I think they did well to keep, because it's all very similar. There's no like this character looks this way and this character looks this way. It's all very similar. So again, I think that's a what's that word? I keep forgetting the words. Thingy to like a atonement. Yeah, to the animation and how well it is done.
Testament to the animation.
That's it. What's atonement mean?
Atone is where you've done something wrong and you sort of try and make amends for it, I guess.
Yeah, it's the atonement. It's a testament to obviously how well it's done, because it is. It's all done really well. The characters, they do all look similar though. I will say that there's no, like I said, there's no differences. It's all a very similar vibe. But do you ever get Ice Age vibes about it as well?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, no, I was watching it. I was actually watching this with my folks, and my mum had seen this one before, and midway through, she said, "Why did I remember like a baby being in this one? That they're looking after a baby or something?" I was like, "Nah, that's the first Ice Age movie where they got
Yep.
like the little man cub, and Manny and Sid and Diego were trying to take care of it." She was like, "Oh yeah, that's right."
Hang on, I'm trying to figure it. Bongo the bear. That's it.
Yeah. We've got a couple more comments. HLB Coma says, "But this is a different bloke than the Rings of Power reviews, right?" Yep. Different guy. Those were great, by the way. Thanks for that. Yeah, no, we'll be live again on Friday for more Rings of Power. So yeah, hope to see you there if you can tune in for that.
What does the guy from the Rings of Power review look like?
He flashed up on camera very, very briefly. I hadn't seen his face at all. And then in a couple of reviews ago, his webcam was messing up, and I caught a quick glimpse of it.
I was going to say, just because if he looked completely nothing like me, I'd be like, oh. But yeah, I didn't know what he looked like.
But apparently, you do have a cool boiler.
I do, because it's on the wall, and it exists. My other one wasn't on the wall, so that's my boiler journey. Yeah.
I was actually just having a look at some of the characters here, and there's I'm bringing the tone down with this one a little bit, but the character of Denai, the voice actor was Jason Reyes, who this was his first and only film role before he died in 2004. So he died 1 year after this film came out. He's best known apparently for playing Simba, adult Simba, in the Broadway stage musical of that, and doing the voice of Denai. And then they filed a missing persons case. He just took off and went missing, and then they found that he'd hanged himself in the shed at his property. So that's pretty hard hitting. I didn't know that, but yeah, this is his only film role. And actually, Denai is probably one of my favorite characters in the film. If I'm going to go with my favorites, it would probably be him, because he starts off and he's like the typical middle child. He's very wacky and he's sort of caught in between, and maybe a kind of, I say, crisis of identity, but he's not the youngest, so he's a mentor in some way, but he's not the mentor of the three of them. That goes to Sitka, the elder brother. And when Sitka goes, you do see that shift in the character. It becomes a lot more serious, and he really has to step up and try and show some wisdom, which I think was his totem, wasn't it? Was wisdom, I think. And they kind of make a joke at the start, like, oh, he's not very wise. But as soon as Sitka dies and the tone of the movie changes, you really do see that change in him. And I do like how bedraggled he gets, and how he is totally on. He's got nothing, he thinks both of his brothers are dead. He has got nothing left. His only quest is to take down this bear that completely consumes him. So I think Denai is probably the most interesting character in this one for me. But yeah, I didn't know that about the voice actor. I was actually having a look at the voice actors for the two Moose. Are we going with Moose for plural?
Mooses.
Rick Moranis, which when the credits were going up, I didn't realize that he did one of them. Spaceballs, the Flintstones movie, Ghostbusters, fantastic stuff, and Little Shop of Horrors as well. Rick Moranis is fantastic, love it. And Dave Thomas, who I think I've only seen in Rat Race. He plays Harold Grisham, who works for John Cleese's character. He's the one who's kind of stuttering and stammering, very quietly spoken, who hooks up with Vicky, the hooker, towards the end. So both of them are great in their own way, but the characters are just so crowbarred in and pointless to me. And just that, like, how's it going, eh? And I'm like, I get it, because they're doing like a Canadian thing, like, I get it, but it really got on my tits very, very quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how many times I can just say every time go, yeah, it's just kind of, it is. I really wish I had more to say about this, because it's not a bad movie. It's not like I'd say I rate it like a 1 out of 10. I'd probably give it a 4 though.
Yeah. I did like. There's another little character that I quite liked, and as soon as I heard her speak, I was like, oh, it's Mrs. Potato Head. It's the old bear at the at the salmon run.
Is she dead now?
Probably.
She's got to be.
Yeah. God, that old, like, pretty much the entire Toy Story cast is just dead, and they're still cranking out a 5.
Yeah.
So great.
But the music in this is good.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up now. Yeah, if you want to talk about the music.
Again, it's not forgettable. It's just not Phil Collins' best. or it's not anything fully rememberable. What's the word? Memorable. Fucking hell. Right, I'm losing on what I
The
say.
irony, the
Yeah,
irony of that word.
yeah, I know. But it's not like the most memorable ever. It's not. It's okay. It's there. It's good. It's just It's such a weird thing to say with this whole movie. Every single thing. But remember, I said that about Atlantis and Treasure Planet. Now, Treasure Planet, great music. Atlantis, I was like very forgettable.
Mhm.
Music by the same person. You know, the same person did the music, and Tarzan, brilliant. This, very similar.
Mhm.
So it's more like it's the forgettable version, if that makes sense.
I actually really like the score to this one. I agree, like the actual score itself, maybe not as memorable as some, maybe not as much as Tarzan, but I actually really like the songs in this, and I forgot how catchy they were. Once again, though, there are moments where I kind of, similar to Tarzan, there are moments where I wish the emotion of the film would speak for itself without the aid of a sad Phil Collins song telling me that I should feel sad. I really like the songs and they work, but there's one moment in particular which I'll get onto in a minute. But yeah, Collins was brought on board from success on Tarzan. There's a lot of that with this movie, isn't there? It's like, oh, the animal thing worked with
Yeah,
Lion King, so let's do that. All the Tarzan thing worked with Phil Collins, let's get that in.
yeah.
We're going to try and get another success story, and that doesn't usually work sometimes because it's like lightning in a bottle. But Phil Collins came on and he co-wrote the score as well with Mark Mancina. But Collins was quoted saying, "Slowly, the bad news started to trickle down that I wouldn't be singing it all. I was a bit. It was a bit of a disappointment because I usually write songs that I sing myself." And yeah, that did catch me off guard. Watching it again, as soon as the opening song came on, I thought, "Oh, great spirits. I remember this." And then Tina Turner's voice was there. I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, Tina Turner did do this one." And then it got to there was another song in there. I think it's the Welcome or like the Salmon Run song, and Phil Collins sings little bits in that, but it's a different band singing it. And I was like, oh yeah, I remembered Phil Collins doing
You
this one,
know,
and it wasn't. So,
you
but I
know the
actually
weird.
really like the songs. I think it's a good mix. But there's the one scene in particular that I was referring to is the moment where Kenai finally breaks the news to Coda that his mom's not going to be there because he's responsible for her death. And the dialogue cuts out of the movie, and we get Phil Collins like, "Everywhere I turn, I hurt someone," and I'm
Do you
like,
know
"No, this is like a
what?
character scene. Like, let the scene play out. I
How do
don't
you
need a sad
think?
Phil Collins song to let me know it's a sad scene."
How do you think it would play out if, let's say, we not switched the music of this, but like, you know how Phil Collins is always like, he has to say, "Oh, you write stuff that I sing," blah 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 blah. He was writing stuff, other people were singing, playing, all that sort of stuff. If you switched it with Tarzan, so the stuff for Tarzan, he didn't sing, but he wrote songs for the characters to sing, and that became a musical. But this one, everything was sung by Phil Collins, so the soundtrack was Phil Collins was proper, went Tarzan about it. How different do you think it would all be?
I think I would have actually preferred that. As I mentioned, like there's two moments in Tarzan. There's Trash in the Camp, and there's the bit where Carla starts to sing to Tarzan, "You'll Be in My Heart," but then it segues straight into Phil Collins' song over the top. I actually think the characters singing the songs would have worked a lot better in Tarzan. It was right around that Disney Renaissance time where all of the films were doing that, and they were all very sort of like Broadway musical stage based. I actually think that would have worked quite well for Tarzan. For this one, I think you could have absolutely had the characters singing some of the songs. I don't see why you couldn't, but I don't mind it as much in this one with like the music over the top. I still think it
And
works, but
that's because it was a lot after the Renaissance, and again, it's like Tarzan was a good movie. It could have been like it would have just been part of the Renaissance a bit better. Whereas this, it's years after, and it was a very like if it had it, it's like I don't really care. I don't care if this movie never came out. It made no difference to my life. This movie in my life would have turned out exactly the same whether this movie was around or not. It's one of them.
well, it's one of those like you mentioned, like after the Renaissance, the last few that we've talked about haven't really had a massive musical push to them. Lilo and Stitch, you had a lot of Elvis songs over the top of it. And, you had a couple of ones like Hawaiian Roller Coaster Ride and the one that opens the film as well that are quite nice songs, but it's never really been at the forefront. Treasure Planet, you get that one pop rock song over the top of it. Atlantis, you get, it's all soundtrack. There is no singing over the top of it. So we've had quite a few of those now at this point. Emperor's New Groove didn't really have many, did it either? So
what's the next one? Frozen? No, Tangled. Tangled will be the next one, won't it?
What are you talking about in the music?
The next music.
Princess and the Frog. Princess and the Frog would be the next one.
Shit, it is. Yeah, that would be the one before.
I think Home on the Range has quite a few songs in it, if I remember rightly. Alan Menken comes back to do the soundtrack for that, but it's not one of his finest, I don't think.
Yeah, we don't care about that though. It's not good. It's like I'm trying to think of a good example of something that's like, yeah, but it's kind of like the Lion King musical. I know that does well, but I've seen only clips and it's like, yeah.
Mm-hmm. We've got a few comments I just want to bring up before I was going to ask you your favorite song. We'll get onto that in just a second. Ray says Phil Collins went hard on Tarzan, and you are absolutely correct. Yes, he did. It's a banging soundtrack. I've mentioned that I kind of wish the songs were sung by the characters within the film, but that aside, the songs themselves, yeah, bloody incredible, aren't they?
Is the great? Do you know what? I love the soundtrack on Tarzan, and I think there's so many moments that I know you were like, if the characters actually sang, I don't know though. I feel like it turned out perfect.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the music in Tarzan turned out, really, really well, and I don't know. I'm not saying the characters sang it would make it any better, but I don't know. I couldn't even imagine it still. Really,
well, it's the fact that they dip their toe into it a little bit with Carla starting to sing, and then doesn't. And I'm like, well, if you're not going to do it, don't bother. Yeah. Like, why would you tease that and then not follow that through with the rest of the movie? That bit always stands out to me as being a bit out of place.
I know, but the thing is as well, because there was so much singing all the others, the fact there was only a little bit in this makes it a little bit different, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's because I've just known that movie for so long and I just can't imagine it another way. I don't know. But look through my eyes in this one. Yeah, it's
a good song.
Yeah, I think I would, and the thing about it as well is like let me start that sentence again. How big of Tarzan vibes you just feel from that and the way it's presented as well.
It's very much You'll Be in My Heart kind of.
Yeah, and the thing is, and the thing about it as well is I think this movie takes a lot, like there's so many things from other movies, even for instance like my favorite character, the fact I saw it from Final Fantasy 3, there's the bits that I think remind me of Jungle Book with the lightning and like the fighting and that sort of stuff. There's so many things like that. Like it's very Tarzan. Everything is very, this feels like this movie. This feels like this movie. Is that weird though? Because like my favorite song, I like it because it reminds me of Tarzan. I like my favorite character because it reminds me of Final Fantasy 3. Mm-hmm. Does that say something about the movie? I don't know. Or
it maybe does. Yeah, no, maybe.
Or is that a good thing? That's like, yeah, but it reminds you of this. It's nostalgic. But then again, it says something of they just do what they feel works.
Mm.
I don't know.
I guarantee we're the only people that are thinking like we watch this and go, "Oh yeah, that reminds us of Final Fantasy 3." That probably never occurs to anyone. But it's just because we really enjoy that movie.
Well, the thing is, I don't know. I just like a lot. I feel like I'm giving this movie more shit than I should because it's not a bad movie. I don't dislike it. Oh. I just think it's just very, like I said, I give it a 4 out of 10 only because it's not something like, if you were to say, would you go back and watch this again? I'm not in a hurry. Yeah. If it got deleted from history and someone burned every copy ever, you know what? It's fine. I'm not fussed. I don't care if I never watch it again. Not because I want people to burn every copy and I hate the movie, but just like I'm like, you know what? I've seen it a couple of times. It's done its time.
I think it's just like the story's a little bit weak. That's all. Like I don't mind the initial premise of the film, but there doesn't feel like beyond the concept after the first act, it doesn't feel like there's much to latch on to. Doesn't feel like there's much meat to the story, maybe. And then it's kind of by the numbers. It's quite predictable, and then it's finished in a very, timely fashion, and everything's done. Favorite song for me, I guess this would be like part of the score. So if I talk about like my favorite song in the score and then like the actual song, it's right when Sitka dies, and then it cuts to black, and it like fades back in, and they're doing like the funeral procession, and then it fades to black again, and there's a lot of that kind of editing, and there's like a Phil Collinsy singing in the dialect, and then it goes into the transformation sequence where you have I think it's the Bulgarian women's choir. That whole scene, that's like my favorite bit of music from the whole film. But if we're talking like the actual Phil Collins songs, or the Tina Turner ones, or the Blind Boys of Alabama songs, I will say On My Way is an absolute earworm. And when that queued up and Coda's like, tell everybody I'm on my way. It's that good kind of walking song. Very similar to, again, Ice Age or Matilda, whichever one you take preference with, that on my way, do 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 on my way. That good walking song. So that got to me. But I think my favorite would probably be No Way Out, which ironically is the sad Phil Collins song, but the melody to that I think is really nice, and I was noticing that actual melody was working its way into the score throughout the film a lot more than I remembered. But I just wish that had been maybe like a different place in the film or something. I just wish that those characters, Coda and Kenai, had that conversation on screen, so we could have really got that emotion across and felt those characters in the moment, rather than starting that scene and then Phil Collins just kind of derailing it midway through. But ironically, that is probably my favorite song out of everything. It's quite short though. I think it's only like a 2.5-minute song.
It isn't, again, speaking of Tarzan, You'll Be in My Heart, isn't that only a short version of it as well?
Yeah, maybe then. Oh yeah, you do get like a pop version of the one in Brother Bear at the end, don't you? Similar to yeah, no, you might be right. HLB Coma says, so speaking of Tarzan, what's your opinion on the ages-long question? Was he clapping monkey cheeks, or was he a virgin when he met Jane? So, Dale, do you want to start this one? I need to think about my answer to this
I'm
one.
trying to think of what I would do if it was me and I was Tarzan. I reckon he was down there with the apes, like, you know.
You think he was?
Yeah, because like, you know, it's you'd be one of them, and you just would, wouldn't you? Like if it was me, I'm thinking if it was me, and I was a monkey, but because I think I was a monkey and all that, and technically we're part ape, so yeah, he definitely was 100%.
I must admit, HLB Coma, I've never thought about this until now, so you kind of put me on the spot with this one.
Which is weird that Jane was like, yeah, let's bang. It's like, yeah, he's been, yeah, that's the thing. That's yeah.
I mean, he is a man grown, isn't he? He is of age, so I would assume he probably was clapping monkey cheeks.
It's kind of like,
maybe.
Yeah, definitely.
I think he probably was, yeah, because that would be normal to him. Although then you got like Kerchak, who's kind of loitering around, and he's like, he doesn't belong with us. He is not one of us. So maybe the rest of the group kind of felt like that a little bit and was like, yeah, well,
is
you're
that
not
because
a gorilla, so we're not going to do that.
Is that because a gorilla has a really small penis and humans is bigger? So he was like, didn't like it.
I mean, I don't know the ins and outs of gorilla anatomy to that level.
I feel like gorilla penis is only because I can't remember why, but I feel like I watched this video, not of gorilla penis, but I watched this video and it was like someone wished for, I don't know, it was one of those like, oh yeah, you know, what do you wish for? And someone was like, I wish I had a penis of a gorilla, and he had a really small penis, and he was like, yeah, gorillas have small penises. I don't know why you did that. And it was something like that. So I feel like they do. I don't know, but I'm taking it from a cartoon video of a genie, so I don't know.
There you go. So actually, you know what? No, I'm going to play devil's advocate. I'm going to say that Kerchak and everything were like, yeah, you're not a gorilla, so don't be doing that. Don't be like feeling up other gorillas and stuff. Like, you can be here, but that, yeah. So you're saying he did smash. I'm saying he didn't smash. There you go. But let us know what you think. As you say, the ages-old question. Ray says the songs from Tarzan would hit as much if they were sung by the characters. Phil brings. I'm guessing that's wouldn't. The songs from Tarzan wouldn't hit as much if sang by the characters. Phil brings the emotions. Oh yeah, sorry, she did. Yeah, she did correct herself there. I don't know. I think maybe we're only thinking that right now because Phil Collins is all we've ever known. But I think those characters could have carried the emotions, because you could say that for like all of them. You could say like for Lion King, well, if we'd have known a film where Elton John sang every single song over the top of everything, we'd probably be saying the same thing. But to me, the characters singing those songs in the film.
Was it Lion King that I compared it? No, that you compared it to, because I said a similar thing, and I said I wouldn't want to see that, and I think it was you that said, well, think about it, with Lion King, would it have worked? Was it Lion King we compared it to?
Well, now I'm thinking about it. Actually, now I've just said that out loud. With Lion King, you have two moments where the characters actually sing in the film. Maybe, hang on, you've got Hakuna Matata, you've got the beginning of Can You Feel the Love Tonight, but then it's overdubbed with, like a sang version. Circle of Life, no characters are singing that's dubbed over. And then you've got I Just Can't Wait to Be King. Yeah, so you got like 2, 3. Oh, Be Prepared. Yeah, no, okay, fair enough. You have got a lot of characters singing the songs in that film.
No, but I would have to agree. I don't think it would have carried as much emotion. No, it wouldn't. No, okay, not that it wouldn't have carried as much emotion with them singing. I just think, I don't know. I really like the music in Tarzan, and I think it's one of those things where, yes, they could have done it, and I know you said that was the reason for the end of the Renaissance and all that, and I do agree. I just think it was a good sort of end, in the sense of it was that little bit different. It was very musical though, like it wasn't just some songs. I still see it as very similar. It wasn't sung by the characters.
Yeah. And Ray says, I mean, this is an interesting point as well. I think Tarzan didn't require the storytelling done through songs, as opposed to films like Tangled, Frozen, Moana, Encanto. That's kind of fair. I don't know. I'm thinking like, so where would the songs? So Son of Man, I'm trying to think like who would have sung Son of Man? Would that be like Tarzan himself? Would that be like your Go the Distance kind of song from Hercules with him singing it?
Yeah. No, this is what I mean. I wouldn't want to see a Tarzan where the characters sing those songs, because they would have a song called "Swinging Through the Trees." They would, and it would just be like, cool, good for you.
Well, you'd have to change up some. So, Strangers Like Me, I guess, would have to be sung by both Jane and Tarzan. You would have had to have like a kind of love song between the two. Clayton would need a villain song in there. And now, oh my god, could you imagine Brian Blessed singing a fucking villain song? That would be great.
I think they should have had a scene with Kerchak breaking Jane's dad's neck.
Oh my god.
They should have proper like gone heavy with that. That would have been great.
I know you have the TV show and the sequels and stuff, but I often think where, it's a very nice Disney ending where they decide to stay in Africa and, her and her dad. But do you think like maybe a couple of days go by, a week goes by, and they're like, we kind of regret this now because we're stuck here and we haven't got like, it's like, oh, I'll just go and put the kettle on. Oh, wait, no, I can't because we're not in London.
Yeah.
And they're there.
Exactly.
And they've got no access to like medical care or anything. So if they like stub their toe and it gets infected or something, like they are going to die like a really slow death, and they've got no one who can help them. No modern medicine.
I'm trying to remember though. At the end of it, does Tarzan speak English or do they speak gorilla? I'm trying to remember now.
Well, he learns a bit of English through montage, doesn't he?
Yeah, but do they like? But they also learn a bit of gorilla. So
yeah, well, she learns that bit where she communicates with she says like, how do I say stay here, doesn't she, early in the film? Like Jane stays with Tarzan, and then she just says that again at the end, so she learns a little bit.
I think because when you get I can't remember much of Tarzan and Jane, but when you get like the second one and you get the series, they will like Jane speaking to the lesbian one, Rosie O'Donnell.
Turk.
Yeah, Turk, that's it. I was going to say Kerchak, but it's not Kirk. They're very similar names, Turk, whatever. But they speak, so she's obviously speaking gorilla. So I think, but what do they mainly communicate in? Human or gorilla?
What in the series or in the movie?
Well, in their day-to-day life,
Well, I guess
Tarzan and
it'd be a
Jane.
bit of both. Like he'd probably teach her more gorilla, wouldn't he? She'd teach him more English, and there you go. I love how this has become a Tarzan review, by the way. This is great. I
That's
guess we're done
because
with Brother Bear.
that's because this movie is so like it's not bad. It's just so surface level, and I think
Yeah.
it's hard. Like you say, it's hard to say things about this.
No, it really is. I knew this was probably going to be one of the shorter ones, and maybe that's going to be the case for next week as well. But yeah, I
Yeah, but
mean,
the
as I said,
difference
like
is
this one's kind of a big deal for me because this was the last one that I saw at the cinema. So even like maybe subconsciously, this was the one that kind of sealed my fate with going to see all of the Disney films. And I don't know why, because I always stayed a Disney fan. And to be fair, 2003, yeah, I would have been 10 years old. That's not really old to be jumping ship from Disney. So I don't know why. Maybe they just weren't advertised as much. Like Home on the Range, I barely remember anything being advertised for that film. And I think I got it on video because, oh, it was the new Disney one. But then Chicken Little just sort of came out and it kind of fell into the minutia of like all those other CGI ones that were coming out around the time. So it didn't even feel like a Disney movie. So I think maybe I didn't even clock that that was a Disney animated classic at the time. Yeah, it's just strange. Like this one was the last one I went to see for a while at the
I
cinema.
think mine was Wreck-It Ralph 2. I
Yeah.
think.
Oh,
I think
wait,
that's the
no, I did go and see that at the cinema. I did go and see Wreck-It Ralph 2. Did that come out after Zootopia? I think it did.
yeah.
Yeah,
It did.
okay. Zootopia was the next one I went to see then. Yeah.
Zootopia was good.
Apparently there was a video game of Brother Bear that was released on Game Boy Advance.
There
I
was.
I
Yes.
never played it. I
I
don't
never
know much
played it,
about
but
it.
I heard that there was. Yes.
There was, of course, the direct-to-video sequel, Brother Bear 2, which there's a human character called Nita, and I don't know if that's like some kind of love interest or
There was going to be a series.
character. And yeah, there was a cancelled television spin-off of this thing. So
They do a lot of those, don't they? There's a lot of cancelled television series.
a lot, yeah. So it was because none of them were making money. That's why you had one for Atlantis, which they had 3 completed episodes, which they packaged into a movie. Treasure Planet was cancelled. This was cancelled. We're going to read up on Home on the Range next week, and they'll probably be like, "There was meant to be a Home on the Range TV series that was cancelled."
Well, Home and the Range should have been cancelled.
Agreed. I don't know. I might rewatch it and I might really like it. It's got
I've
a
never
great
actually
villain
seen it,
song
so
in there though. Alameda Slim gets a villain song, and Alan Menken's great. You know, Alan Menken's one of my favorite composers. I don't remember any of the other songs in that film, but I do remember the yodeling song that the villain has, which is pretty fun. But yeah, Brother Bear the series. Apparently, the premise apparently it tested quite well with test audiences, but they just didn't pursue it in the end. It was going to be set after the first movie, and it was going to be Kenai and Coda who were exploring around and adopting other orphaned animals into their family. That was going to be the premise.
you know what? Beauty and the Beast one sounds better.
That was terrible. But what was it? Belle's Magical World? That was awful.
Yeah, but no, it was alright. It made me feel like a child.
Well, you did when we did Beauty and the Beast. You did like an incredible fan edit, like weird machete order of watching Beauty and the Beast. So you watched Beauty and the Beast to like the midway point or wherever it is. Then you watched the Enchanted Christmas, where it veers off into like a side quest with Tim Curry being an orphan, which is great. And then you watched a bit of Belle's Magical World, which you turned off because it was terrible. And then you finished off the movie and went back to the first one. That must have been weird, like especially the animation quality.
That it was the weirdest. Well, yeah, because obviously the TV series one was a bit. But Tim Curry, that was like his forte. That did look weird because that I feel like was that the first proper CGI we got.
I don't think it was like the first, but
but the first proper big thing. I don't know, but because I think because
Little Mermaid used elements of CGI, I think before it. Rescuers Down Under used a lot.
Yeah, I think because it stood out so much, watching it in that order as well did feel weird. But it did work. I think what was the issue that we had with it though, where Beast couldn't read or something?
Yeah, he can't read in the movie where he's like "two" and she's like "two."
Oh
But yeah,
yeah, and then
in
he can.
Enchanted Christmas, she's like, Chip's like, why don't you write him a story? And then she starts
Yeah,
writing him a book.
that's it. Yeah, that there was that. But aside from that, no, it was good. I like the axe. Um, what was it? The axe with the weird accent.
Oi, it was the Jewish axe.
Yeah,
Oi.
that was it. The Jewish axe. That was cool.
Oh my god, the blade on the. Oh my god, I won't.
The what?
He's an axe, right?
Yeah.
Blade.
Oh, with the, yeah.
And he's yeah. Oh wow.
Yeah, but that's what Disney was like. Walt Disney hated Jews.
They did.
He
Apparently.
well, I don't know. I don't know where that came from
Yeah,
fully,
where
but
did that come from? It was like, oh, Walt Disney's a Nazi and he's been cryogenically frozen and he actually hated children or something. Where did all
yeah.
that come from?
Well, did you see that he used to? Well, I don't know which bits are true or not, but apparently he used to like not smoke around children.
Oh no, I never.
But I heard that, but I don't know if that's true. Only because you get, I think, early Disney movies. There's like smoking cigars and stuff, and obviously at that point in time, smoking was like a natural thing. So I don't, with the cigars and stuff in the old movies, I don't feel like that bit's true. Like I have heard that, but I don't think it's true.
Well, it's not portrayed as a good thing though. It's like if you're referring to Pinocchio, where they go to Pleasure Island, and you've
Yeah.
got Lampwick and Pinocchio smoking and drinking. That's not, it's the opposite of good behavior. That's why they're there. It's showing that they're being, naughty and doing all, fulfilling all these vices and whatnot.
No, I know. I don't know what I just think that if he was that frugal of not smoking around children, it just wouldn't have been in. I don't know. I just didn't really believe it. I read it and I thought, oh yeah, but I also saw a Family Guy sketch where he got brought back to life and then he went, "Are the Jews dead yet?" They said no, and
Put
then
me back in.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. One thing I'd say about this movie though is one thing I think about. The end credits.
Hmm.
It looks good. It looks good with the whole like it's got that. What's it called where they do it? Because they always do two credits now in movies where they've got the flashy one where they've got clips that happen alongside it, and then you've got the black background with all just the credits go up. Right? There's always two sort of things now in movies. Do you remember back in the like early Disney where there weren't credits? It was just the end.
Yeah.
Remember that? What
No,
was the first one that had credits? It was Black Cauldron, I
Black
think. Wasn't it?
Cauldron.
Yeah, that was the first one with credits. I do kind of miss that where the credits were at the beginning. I get it now with the times and like but just sometimes I think it would be good just to see again.
It's when I get nostalgic for like old school cinema. Like a lot of the old musical films, like Sound of Music or like My Fair Lady or something. Like those movies where you go, probably like Gone with the Wind, to be fair, and stuff, where you go, right, I'm gonna have to like free up a Sunday. I'm gonna have to free up like 4 hours on a Sunday to watch this old school Hollywood movie. And yeah, and I miss title sequences to things like that, even like more, semi recent than that. But superhero films used to do that a lot. Tim Burton's Batman and Batman Returns open with like the title sequences, which really set the tone, set the mood, and kind of eases you into it. Superman the movie, Spider-Man does it a lot as well.
Do you know one I hated though? When Marvel used to do it, like with Spider-Man, it was just long. Like,
No, I'm going to fight you on
no,
that. I
I thought the Marvel ones were overly long. Like, I get when Disney used to do it and they were great, and it's the same with when like Tim Burton's Batman did it. But I thought the Marvel ones did drag a bit. And did you ever watch Superhero Movie? Where they really took the piss and made it drag on a long time in the beginning. Like they really, really pushed on that, which I thought was funny. But yeah, I thought Marvel's took it a step too far.
No, well, I mean, it was Sony, wasn't it, with Spider-Man? I absolutely adore the opening of Spider-Man films. And it becomes part of the film. It really, really does. As much as the opening crawl is a part of a Star Wars film, and HLB in the comments says about Bond has great opening sequences. Absolutely. You come to expect, there's a level of expectation there now that is part of the film. And when you take that away, even stuff with Star Wars, how what I've loved, it's going to sound so weird, but like when we've been going to see, Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, we've got Revenge of the Sith tomorrow, and we'll have it for the original trilogy. The one thing that I love the most is right at the very, very beginning of the film, you get 20th Century Fox, dun, 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 and you get the fanfare, because that to me was always part of Star Wars. Now that logo, 20th Century Fox, that wasn't designed for Star Wars. That wasn't made originally for Star Wars. But the fact that John Williams wrote the main Star Wars theme in the same key as 20th Century Fox, it is that lead-in. It's part of the movie, and for 6 films, that was the expectation. So when you go and see Force Awakens, and it just starts on a quiet Lucasfilm logo, you haven't had that. It felt like it was missing something right from the opening, and it didn't feel right. And
The
that was
Force Awakens was missing a lot of things.
It was, but I mean, right out of the gate, I was like, oh, it doesn't have the same impact.
Yeah,
because you have that fanfare, then it goes quiet. Long time ago, Galaxy Far Far Away. Boom! Then you have your main Star Wars thing. But no, I'll fight you on the Sam Raimi Spider-Man films. I love that they open like that. I love the artwork on it, and it does serve in a way as a bit of a recap on the first movie, because it has like flashes and like cliff notes of the previous one to catch you up. So
I'm not knocking it fully. I just think those ones went a bit far. I do think they just went on a bit long.
Well, Ray says as well, and I think this is definitely a big shift nowadays. Ray says the credits at the beginning is the worst for kids these days. Mine have attention spans of gnats and can't last credits at the beginning. Yeah, and it just goes to show that shift. But I do think that I do miss days where films had that, because that music, it was part of the film. It was that lead in. It got you into the it can establish a tone. It can do many, many things.
It's, to be fair, as much as it's like, kids nowadays have less of attention span, it's because now you can watch a video and go, nah. And also on Netflix, skip intro. You can do that. And that's why, obviously, because it's like people are so used to that, that it wouldn't work as well nowadays, because people want to just get into the movie. And nowadays, imagine that happened. You'd be watching a movie and going, kids would be there, just like, can I skip this? Can I skip this? And that's what they would be saying. So you've also, if Star Wars, if that whole Rey movie, if that goes full like episode 10, let's say they call it, because they might, because they're fucking weird, will they skip the opening crawl?
Well, yeah, a bit like Rogue One, where it just.
But Rogue One, it wasn't an episode number, so like, what I mean, it wasn't a numbered title, so that kind of like it wasn't unexpected. But will they even do that if it's like episode 10? Will they do it? Shrek had an opening. Shrek did with the book in Shrek 2.
Yeah.
There's a little storytelling thing. I like it, and I think if Disney, I'm not gonna say bring it back, because I kind of agree with that. But like I say, kids have less attention span. It probably would flake off. They'd be sitting in the cinema being like, cool, amazing, and they would just drop off for a bit. Like I get it. But I think it'd be nice in some movies. Like maybe the next Princess movie would be nice to just see a homage to that. But it's not going to happen, is it?
So Tarantino still does it with his movies, doesn't he? Does he still have like a title sequence?
Did he do it once?
I was trying to think that.
But I don't remember if he did or not. If he did, they're not ridiculously memorable. James Bond are, but I've never been a fan of James Bond.
You've never watched them?
No, yeah, but I've watched bits, and I've never been like, what I mean. It's never strived me to watch them.
I used to say the same thing, man. And then, on my previous channel, I watched all of them, and then right after we did that retrospective, they put them all in the cinemas. So then I did another retrospective on this channel. So I don't know. I'll get you into Bond at some point. We'll talk about them maybe another time.
So many of them. So many.
25.
Do you know what? I'll watch one a year.
My God.
I'll be dead before they.
We might actually have the next Bond film out by that point. Who knows? Maybe.
I hope not.
But you mentioned a great thing there about Netflix with the skipping intros thing, and I think it defaults to this. One thing that always pissed me off was where it skips to next episode, or it'll skip the credits, because to me, credits are so important to a film. It's not just a list of, names and, everyone gets, a call out at the end. It's still part of a mood of the film, and it allows you to reflect. Like if you've just watched an episode of a TV show where, something fucking harrowing's happened. Like, have you seen Game of Thrones?
No.
Okay, I won't spoil it in case you do. In season 3, there's an episode called The Red Wedding, and some huge, like, cataclysmic shit happens in that episode, and it cuts to credits, and the credits are in utter silence. because people were just like, what the fuck just happened? For anyone who hadn't read the book at that point and didn't know what was going to happen, it completely rocked your world. And now on Netflix, it'd just be like 5 seconds of it. You'd be like, what the fuck? Next episode. Oh, okay. Well, I've snapped out. I've lost that moment. I've lost that moment of being so in that emotional space. Like, thank you. Next, on to the next thing. It's so disposable, and I hate that. So I disabled it on my Netflix because it pissed me off.
Yeah, I think we touched upon that when we watched the Motley Crue movie, because we were looking for the credits for a reason. I can't remember what the actual reason was, but it automatically just was like, and we had to, like, how the fuck do we stay on the credits?
It was so convoluted. Yeah, we had to like Google it, and you have to be like on the website version and disable it in the settings. And save it. It's like a nightmare.
Stand on your head and do weird things, like, otherwise it doesn't work. It's weird, but I don't know. I think, credits do have, like you say, because this is probably why they also have 2 credit sections in a lot of movies now, where they have the one with the flashes, the scenes, all that sort of stuff. Like, again, Kingdom Hearts, very good example of when it, when you get the credits roll, you've got like Kingdom Hearts 2 is a very good example of, you've got scenes of where they go next in those worlds. So you've got like Belle and the prince, like the beast is now a prince. And you go, oh, okay, cool. And then the next credit section, which is just a rolling credits. And I think they do that because the first bits of credits, it's like the whole, this is part of the movie, people stay and they watch, and then you got the rolling credits where everyone sort of leaves.
Yeah. But did you stay to the end of Brother Bear credits? Because there is a scene after the credits.
I did not. No, I always watch the first piece, so the flashy credits, but no.
Yeah, so it's Coda, and he says, like, in accordance with regulations or something, no fish were harmed in the making of this movie. And then you just see a salmon screaming as it's like, help me, like behind us, the bear's chasing it down.
I read something about the fish in this movie. So the fish are more animated than they should have been, apparently. So it's like, what is it that I read? Something about, like, what they do is they use any fish that are in movies, they're more realistic looking, but these were more cartoon based or something.
Well, they were CGI very much in, like, the salmon run scene.
Yeah. I don't know, there was something like they were more cartoon based than most movies make fish or something. So that makes sense. I don't know. I don't know what I read. I read something.
But yeah, post-credit scenes. I think there's I actually can't remember all of the. I know Moana has a post-credit scene, I think.
Do you know what?
Zootopia might.
I don't dislike post-credit scenes. They're cool. But when Marvel started doing it after every movie, it was like, we don't need them after every movie. It's not a surprise anymore.
Well, I mean, that became part of it, didn't it? It was the Marvels, the MCU kind of almost became like a TV series where each one would lead into the next one, almost like an episodic TV show. So that was like, oh, okay, what's coming up? Oh, okay, that's leading into that.
The first one was good with, was it Iron Man, where they did it, and there was the whole, they talked about the Avengers, and you were like, oh, cool, and that was cool. After that, we don't need them in every fucking movie.
Yeah, I mean, some of them, what was really annoying is you'd sit, you'd be bursting for a piss at the end of, like, I think it was Thor the Dark World for me, which was a shit film. Shit, like one of the, well, actually by phase 4 and phase 5 standpoint, it probably isn't that bad compared to some of those recent ones that have come out. But at the time, it was definitely one of the low points. And I remember being like halfway through the film, just bursting for a piss, and I didn't want to leave because, you don't want to miss anything, even though it was a shit film. And I waited. It was like agonizing, like 15 minutes of fucking credits at the end. And I was like, come on, show me what the next thing is. And it was like a gag. It was like a spoof thing at the end that didn't lead into the next one and didn't set anything up. And it was just like a fun little what if. I was like, oh, fuck you. So yeah, some Marvel, they tend to have like, one has like a mid-credit scene and one has an after-credit scene. One is usually the one that sets up for the next film, or where the plot's going to be heading, and then the other one's just like a fun little gag that ties.
Yeah, but they don't. I do hate that when it becomes a thing after everything. It's like when you see these tropes in movies where I get it, they're cool, but some that they're just like, oh, but we need that. It's like, no, we don't need it. It's nice to not have it all the time.
Yeah,
it becomes a surprise. Not little things like I'm trying to think now. Not well, I say little things, not big things like chocobos in Final Fantasy. Like those are things you need. But some things like end credits, because that's supposed to be a surprise. The initial reaction was the surprise of like, oh shit, like, because remember when, I don't know if you remember when it came out, but like I remember first seeing Iron Man, I thought it was shit, but that's another story. I first saw it and I was like, all right, cool. And then it was my brother that told me. He was like, oh, do you see obviously the thing at the end of the credits? I was like, no. Because also by that age, 2008, I was like, why am I watching the fucking credits? Like, I was like, why would I stick around till after that? But he was like, yeah, and then I saw it. So it's that surprise element, whereas they ended up taking that away.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, in every movie.
Eventually, it really did catch on because the film would finish and everyone would remain seated because they know now that you've got to stick around to find out.
They almost do that in every movie ever, though. Now, like any movie you watch, there will be people sat there till the end of the credits.
I always did that as a kid. Me and my dad, like, he'd always be like, "Oh, there might be something at the end of the film. Let's stick around." So we'd either stay seated or we'd stand up and like stand at the side of the aisle. And the poor cleaners would be wanting to come in and sort the cinema out, and my dad would just be, and then we'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, nothing at the end of that film." We've just sat there for like 10 extra minutes. So it's something I've always done. I always sit and watch the credits for every single film.
The second Harry Potter movie had it back in 2002 as well. There was a little scene. It was literally something really small. It was at the end. It had Gilderoy Lockhart was just like insane in like a little like in the Daily Prophet, and he was like moving around. I can't remember what it was.
That's really the Chamber of Secrets.
Yeah. They had that briefly, and I saw that. I think again, I was watching it on DVD when I was a child, and it was just on the background by that point. The credits still rolling. I went, "Oh, that's cool. There's something new," and that was it. But they never did that ever again in any of the other movies.
More Gilderoy Lockhart is always welcome, as far as I'm concerned. He's the best Harry Potter character. Love him.
I mean, he should play Victor Frankenstein.
Sure.
I mean, he does play Victor Frankenstein.
Oh, did he? Oh, yeah, he did do. Yeah, of course, yeah.
Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. I only ever watched the first half of that. I've not read it. I probably should, but I watched the first half. Didn't really care for it, but then realized the second half is supposed to be very different, a lot darker, and I thought, I should go back and watch that. And I don't think it's on Netflix anymore, so I haven't.
Just a few more comments from Ray. She was referring to the credits. She says, also, where would the bloopers go? Do you remember when Pixar used to do that? I used to love that. You get the little bloopers at the end of like Bug's Life and Toy Story 2.
That wasn't that was that first bit of credits, wasn't it? When I said that whole before the title, the scroll thing. When did they stop? It was in Toy Story, Bug's Life. I want to
say it was Finding Nemo didn't have bloopers, but they did have the post-credit scene.
Finding Nemo was shit.
No, it wasn't. Did Ray mentions Cars end credits is a firm favorite in our house. I don't think those were outtakes though, were they, in Cars? I think it was just. I want to say, you know what? I think it was Monsters Inc. was the.
Did it have bloopers?
Or does it just show the stuff that happened afterwards? Because they do the musical, don't they?
I think.
She's out of our hair. Like they do that bit.
I think what they should do is the next Pixar movie, in the end credits, instead of bloopers, there should be a funeral for all the people that have died in like previous Pixar movies.
Shit, well that'd be Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. I think they're both gone.
It should be, yeah.
Slinky, Lenny.
Yeah, Slinky.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are they going to do those? Oh no, Slinky's got a new voice actor in it. It's Mr. Potato Head that was archived.
Yeah. Hell, just have a funeral for Toy Story at this point because Toy Story 4 fucking killed it dead. So.
I think they need just some depressing like scene just because Disney's dying and I feel like we first seen that with this movie. It's not dead, but we first seen the whole them trying to do something because. Remember what we said from the beginning? It was a company that was trying new things. It was doing this, doing that. But by now, they've got tropes. They've got things that work. They go, right, let's push this. Because you see more and more we go through this retrospective. There's more movies that are like, oh, they tried to push this. They wanted this. They wanted this. And we're seeing it more and more. And we're seeing more now how it doesn't necessarily not work because it's not like it didn't work in this movie, but how it's like, there's a lot of averageness about it.
Yeah, that's a great point about, and I think that's the benefit of doing this retrospective in order, which I've never really done before. I don't think, watching all of them in order and reading about them, you can really see that progression, and in some cases, what we'll probably see very, very soon, or we're kind of seeing it a little bit with Brother Bear, that regression in some respects, where they're kind of spinning their wheels and the landscape's kind of changing and Disney's trying to catch up with it. And we'll see that with Home on the Range, which to me is a particular low point of the Disney animated classics at this point, the 2D animation ones. And it just, the whole like 2D thing, it's a traditional animation, I should call it, sorry, just ends on like a real whimper. It just goes out with like a little,
this is the last one then, isn't it? The last, like, of the original 2Ds.
Well, Brother Bear and Home on the Range next week, which I guess, I was going to mention.
Home on the Range, I thought was 3D.
No. So Home on the Range next week. And that's going to be the last one for a long time, until 2009, which was Princess and the Frog. But
that was a random one.
Changing. A lot of these computer animated films were highly successful, and that's where the market was moving, and Disney was clearly trying to get in on that. But when you look at Chicken Little, it looks so ugly, like, from what I've seen of it. Now, I've never seen the movie. I've never seen it, so that's why I'm trying to be so negative on it right now that I actually watch it and go, actually, you know what? There's a lot I liked about this movie.
Chicken Licking. That's the movie.
Yeah. But it is going to be a real sore spot just next week. It's that last proper, the legacy. All of these films that we've done, 40, well, it'll be 44, won't it? And going all the way back to the 1930s with Snow White, and the company was built on that traditional animation, and that was what Disney looked like. There was a look to those films, which then immediately went out the window. And to be honest, like, you look at The Wild, you look at Meet the Robinsons, Chicken Little, it looks like any other computer animated company. There's nothing to set it apart with an identity of its own.
They went down the Pixar route.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned, like, they closed up shop on this one animation studio, didn't they? That had been there for ages because they wanted to shift to computers. But we have one more. We have one more, Home on the Range. Now, this one, I never went to the cinema to watch it. I've watched it on video, beginning to end, maybe once. So this is almost going to be like watching it again for the first time. I only remember the villain song in there, and that's it. And some of the voice cast, but that's it. But the animation, it's just... it's very simple. It's very angular.
I've never seen this one, ever.
You've never seen Home on the Range?
Nope.
And then you've never seen Chicken... Okay, yes. So for both of us, like, there's going to be a whole string of films coming up soon, which we haven't seen, which is interesting because I think the last time that this happened was towards the beginning of the retrospective, when we hit the World War...
World
War II era, didn't we? With Saludos Amigos, Three Caballeros, things like that we hadn't seen before. So, yeah, there's going to be, like, a month's worth of Disney films that I haven't seen before. Well, both of us haven't seen before. Yep. But I do think that this is where we're in a bit of a nosedive at the moment, it feels, with the next upcoming ones. But we will get through it. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and we have got some fantastic Disney animated classics on the way. And who knows, maybe the next few could surprise us. I'm going to keep an open mind.
We should just go back to the 90s.
Yeah, just keep doing the Disney Renaissance over and over and over again. Yeah. Well, I think we'll round it off there. I love that we talked for about 35 minutes on Brother Bear, and the rest of it's been an interesting conversation about, movies and
life,
feelings of films and life. Yeah, we talked about everything in this one. So once again, a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in and commented. We really appreciate you keeping the conversation going and the viewership every single week. So once again, we'll be back Monday next week, same time, 8 p.m. for number 44, Home on the Range. Until then, we'll see you next time. Oh no, we're going to be back tomorrow. We're going to be streaming again tomorrow night. We're off to the cinema to see Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. I haven't seen that on the big screen since it came out in 2005. Really, really looking forward to seeing that. So we'll be talking Star Wars tomorrow night. It's probably going to be a late one, just so I can give you guys a quick ballpark figure now. Let's see what time the film actually ends tomorrow, and then I can give you a pretty good idea as to when we'll be streaming.
Is it
Revenge of the Sith is going to finish at 10:30. So should I set the live stream for 11 o'clock tomorrow night?
Yeah. Is it me, or does the lighting look like my head is bald and I've got like a monk's thing?
Oh, no.
Like a little bit.
It annoys me how fast your hair grows, though. I mean, you shaved it literally last week, and it's already well on its way to coming back. Look at that.
Oh, I know. It'll be like your length in a few weeks. Be great.
Absolutely right. Let's round it off there. We've talked you to death for one night, so we'll be back again tomorrow, 11 p.m. probably, to talk about some Star Wars. So thank you to everyone who's tuned in, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care, everyone.